So you've brought us a fascinating question with all these notes on the Renaissance, Reformation, and Age of Exploration.
Yeah.
How did Europe go from the Dark Ages to, well, not the Dark Ages?
Right.
It's like asking how a caterpillar transforms into a butterfly. A pretty remarkable metamorphosis.
What's remarkable is that this transformation, it wasn't just about monarchs or wars. It was driven by, the audacity of individuals, monks questioning authority, artists breaking artistic norms,
Right.
and explorers venturing into the unknown. It's a chain reaction of curiosity, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And speaking of monks challenging authority, let's talk about Martin Luther and these 95 theses you've got flagged. What was he protesting exactly?
Imagine being so frustrated with the church that you literally nail your grievances to their door.
Wow.
That was Luther in 1517.
Okay.
He was particularly outraged by the selling of indulgences, essentially. The church claiming people could buy forgiveness for their sins.
So the church was essentially selling get-out-of-jail-free cards for sins.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's a pretty bold move on their part. What was Luther's problem with that?
Well, Luther believed that salvation came through faith alone,
Okay.
not through rituals or payments. By challenging indulgences, he struck at the core of the church's power structure and its control over people's spiritual lives.
That makes sense. But how did a protest in 1500s Germany turn into this Europe-wide movement? There wasn't Twitter back then.
Right. This is where the printing press comes in. Before, knowledge was primarily controlled by the church and a select few. With the printing press, Luther's ideas, including his 95 Theses, were reproduced and disseminated widely, sparking debate and dissent across Europe.
It's like the difference between whispering a secret and broadcasting it on a loudspeaker.
Exactly.
No wonder the church felt threatened.
Yeah.
So Luther poked the bear, so to speak, and everything changed.
It wasn't just Luther. His protests tapped into, I think, a growing dissatisfaction with the church's authority and sparked a wave of religious reform movements. This wasn't just about theological debates. It was about power, individual conscience, the very structure of society. New Protestant denominations arose, each with their own interpretations of Christianity, further challenging the authority of the Catholic Church.
And I imagine that kind of upheaval didn't go over well with everyone, did it?
You're right. Europe became increasingly divided along religious lines, leading to conflicts and wars that would reshape the political landscape for centuries.
Wow.
This period, known as the Reformation, shattered the religious unity of Europe and forced individuals to grapple with, really fundamental questions about faith, authority, and individual conscience.
It's incredible how one monk with a hammer and some ink could ignite such a firestorm of change. But let's shift gears a bit to another revolution brewing at the time. The Renaissance.
Okay.
What exactly was the Renaissance, and how does it connect to the listener's life today?
The Renaissance, which literally means rebirth, signaled a profound shift in how people viewed themselves and the world around them. It was a time of renewed interest in classical learning and culture, the art, literature, and philosophy of ancient Greece and Rome. Think of it as a rediscovery of human potential after centuries of focusing primarily on religious doctrines.
So it's like hitting the refresh button on culture.
Exactly.
Why did it start in Italy, though?
Well, Italy, with its central location in the Mediterranean, was a crossroads of trade and cultural exchange. It was also home to the remnants of the Roman Empire, which served as a constant reminder of past glory and a source of inspiration.
Right.
This unique blend of factors made Italy fertile ground for new ideas to sprout and flourish.
It's like Italy was the original melting pot, and this whole humanism thing.
Yeah.
How did that change how people saw themselves?
Humanism was at the very heart of the Renaissance. Instead of solely focusing on the afterlife, humanists emphasized human potential and achievement in the here and now.
Okay.
They celebrated human reason, creativity, the pursuit of knowledge. Imagine the impact of this shift, from a focus on divine authority to a celebration of human capabilities.
It's like saying, hey, we're pretty amazing too.
Yes.
Instead of simply accepting things the way they were, people were encouraged to question, explore, and strive for excellence in all areas of life.
Precisely. And this new way of thinking permeated every aspect of society, from art and literature to science and politics.
Yeah.
Artists like Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci pushed artistic boundaries, creating masterpieces that celebrated the human form and the natural world.
Right.
Writers like Shakespeare explored the depths of human emotion and experience. Scientists like Galileo challenged long-held beliefs with their observations and experiments.
It sounds like a period of incredible intellectual and artistic ferment.
It was.
But this emphasis on human potential and achievement, didn't that clash with the church's teachings?
It certainly challenged the church's monopoly on knowledge and its control over people's lives. This led to a rise in secularism,
Okay.
the idea that religion and government should be separate,
Right.
and that matters of public life shouldn't be dictated solely by religious doctrine.
That must have been a pretty radical notion back then, wasn't it?
It was.
To think for oneself, to question authority, to imagine a world where religion didn't hold all the answers. It's both exhilarating and, I imagine, a bit frightening.
It was a time of both great promise and great upheaval. The Renaissance challenged the existing social order, leading to debates, conflicts, and ultimately a reassessment of the values and beliefs that had defined European society for centuries.
And this reassessment wasn't confined to the boundaries of Europe, was it?
Mm.
I'm thinking about the age of exploration, those daring voyages across uncharted seas.
Right.
Did the spirit of the Renaissance, that thirst for knowledge and new horizons, play a role in those expeditions?
Absolutely. The Age of Exploration, which saw explorers like Columbus, Cabot, and Magellan venturing into the unknown, was fueled in part by this new spirit of curiosity and the desire to test the limits of human ingenuity. These voyages weren't just about proving the Earth was round,
Right.
though that was a significant outcome.
Yeah.
They were about pushing the boundaries of the known world.
Oh.
Driven by a thirst for knowledge,
Right.
a desire for wealth through trade, and an ambition to expand empires.
Let's talk about these explorers.
Okay.
I'm particularly interested in John Cabot.
Okay.
My notes mention something about him discovering Newfoundland.
Right.
What's the story there?
John Cabot, an Italian explorer,
Okay.
sailing for England,
All right.
reached the shores of Newfoundland in 1497.
Okay.
His explorations helped lay the groundwork for England's later colonization of North America.
So Cabot's voyage, while significant, wasn't about stumbling upon an empty land,
Right.
but rather encountering the people who had already been living there for generations.
Right.
What about the impact of these voyages beyond claiming new territories?
Yeah.
Did they simply bring back spices and gold?
Oh.
Or was there something more?
These voyages brought back more than just tangible goods.
Okay.
Imagine the stories these explorers told upon their return. Tales of new continents, unfamiliar cultures,
Yeah.
and plants and animals never before seen in Europe.
Wow.
This influx of new information had a profound impact on European thought.
It's like finding out everything you thought you knew was just one tiny piece of a much larger and more complex puzzle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It broadened horizons and challenged long-held beliefs.
Okay.
Take, for instance, the concept of a flat Earth.
Okay.
While ancient Greeks understood the Earth's spherical nature,
Uh-huh.
the idea of a flat Earth persisted in some circles.
Really?
These voyages, particularly Magellan's circumnavigation, provided irrefutable proof,
Wow.
pushing scientific understanding forward.
Hold on.
Yeah.
People still thought the Earth was flat back then.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Okay, so these explorers weren't just adventurers.
Right.
They were inadvertently challenging established knowledge
Yes,
and paving the way for a more accurate understanding of the world.
precisely.
Okay.
These voyages, fueled by ambition, rivalry, and yes, even curiosity,
Oh.
ended up poking holes in traditional beliefs
Right.
and fueling the fires of change that were already burning bright thanks to the Renaissance and the Reformation.
It's fascinating how these seemingly separate events, the Renaissance, the Reformation, and the Age of Exploration, were all intertwined, each influencing and amplifying the other.
Right.
It's like a domino effect, wouldn't you say?
It is.
But where did it all begin?
Well,
What was the catalyst for this incredible period of transformation?
if we go back to your original question,
Okay.
how did Europe go from the Dark Ages to, well, not the Dark Ages.
Yeah.
It's important to remember that the Dark Ages is a bit of a misnomer.
Okay, so you're saying those centuries weren't actually shrouded in darkness?
Yeah,
I have to admit the term always sounded a little dramatic.
exactly.
Yeah.
It was a term coined much later.
Right.
And it tends to paint a very Eurocentric view of history.
Okay.
While Europe experienced a period of decentralization and upheaval after the fall of the Roman Empire,
Right.
it wasn't a complete descent into darkness. There were still pockets of learning and innovation, particularly within monasteries,
Huh.
that helped preserve knowledge and culture.
And it's important to remember that the rest of the world wasn't just standing still during this time.
Right.
The Islamic Golden Age, for example, saw incredible advancements in mathematics, science, and art,
Yes.
influencing later developments in Europe.
Precisely.
Okay.
The Renaissance wasn't a sudden burst of light from a period of total darkness,
Right.
but rather a gradual rekindling of intellectual curiosity.
Okay.
It was a time when Europe began to reconnect with its own classical past and engage with the knowledge and innovations of other cultures.
So it's not so much about emerging from darkness, but rather a period of rediscovery and reconnection with knowledge that had been preserved or was flourishing elsewhere.
Right.
It's like finding lost treasures in your own attic.
Yeah.
But in this case, the attic was the wider world and the legacy of classical civilizations.
And once those treasures were rediscovered, there was no containing their impact.
It's like opening a window and letting fresh air into a stuffy room.
Exactly.
That's a great analogy for how these rediscovered ideas and new ways of thinking from other cultures revitalized Europe.
The printing press acted like a bellows,
Right.
fanning those embers of curiosity into a roaring fire.
Yeah.
The ideas of humanism, individualism,
Right.
and the questioning of established authority spread like wildfire,
Wow.
igniting the Renaissance, fueling the Reformation,
Right.
and propelling explorers to venture into the unknown.
And once those flames were fanned by daring artists, thinkers, and those intrepid explorers, there was no stopping the spread of new ideas.
Right.
These centuries still resonate so strongly with us today, don't they?
Absolutely. The Renaissance, the Reformation, the Age of Exploration weren't just chapters in a history book.
Right.
They were transformative moments that laid the foundation for the modern world.
Wow.
Think about it. The scientific revolution, the Enlightenment democratic ideals,
Right.
these all have roots in this era of curiosity and change.
It's mind-blowing when you think about it.
Yeah.
How a handful of individuals, by daring to question, explore, and create, could set in motion such profound changes.
And that's the beauty of studying history, isn't it?
Yeah.
We gain a deeper understanding not just of the past,
Right.
but of ourselves and the world we live in today.
Yeah.
We see how these seemingly distant events continue to shape our present and influence our future.
It's like holding a thread that connects us back through time to those pivotal moments.
Yeah.
It reminds us that we are all part of this ongoing story.
Right.
And that each of us has the potential to make our own mark,
Yes.
to challenge the status quo, and to contribute to the evolution of human thought and creativity.
Well said.
It's been a fascinating journey exploring these transformative centuries.
Because
And I hope our listeners feel that same sense of connection and inspiration.
I hope so too.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the Renaissance Reformation and the Age of Exploration.
My pleasure.
A time when curiosity truly reshaped the world. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep that spirit of discovery alive.